Okay, let's unpack this. There's a name absolutely dominating headlines lately, buzzing around social media, especially after, well, one particular football match that just happened.
Hmm.
We're talking about Florian Wirtz, the young German talent, and these incredibly persistent rumors linking him with a huge move to Liverpool.
Yeah. It's hard to avoid the noise around him right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
His recent performance for Germany, specifically in that UEFA Nations League semifinal against Portugal, really seemed to amplify the conversation.
Right.
And it seems to be directly fueling all this transfer speculation.
Yeah.
I mean, at just 22, a move of this magnitude would be pretty significant. And just the sheer volume of discussion shows how highly regarded he is already.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've got a stack of source material right here, primarily focusing on one specific article that dives headfirst into both that recent match performance and the swirling transfer rumors. So our mission for this deep dive is to really pull apart what this source tells us, what are the key insights it presents about Wirtz's play, what does it actually claim about this potential transfer, and, what does it reveal about how fans are reacting? It's about giving you a quick but comprehensive picture based only on this specific material.
Exactly. It's a fascinating case study, really, and how an individual performance can instantly become intertwined with market speculation, especially, for a player already on the radar of top clubs.
So let's dive straight into what feels like the headline claim from this source. It makes a pretty definitive statement about this potential transfer, doesn't it?
It really does. The article focuses heavily on the assertion that Florian Wirtz's move from Bayer Leverkusen to Liverpool is not just likely, but seems inevitable. That's the word they use.
Inevitable. Okay.
Yeah, and it goes further, citing Mail Online's German sources to suggest that the transfer for the young playmaker to Anfield is all but completed.
Wow. All but completed is a strong phrase. Doesn't leave much room for doubt, according to their sources anyway. And this player, Florian Wirtz, highlighted as being just 22 years old.
Yep, still very young.
The article mentions Liverpool's reported strong interest in him, suggesting it sort of solidified after it became clear that other major clubs, like Man City and Bayern Munich, maybe weren't his preferred destinations.
Right. And the source provides an interesting piece of context about his current club, Bayer Leverkusen. It mentions their 2024-25 season, noting that they failed to retain their status as the champions of Germany this season. This detail is positioned right alongside the transfer talk, almost implying it as part of the backdrop for a potential move.
Which provides quite a direct contrast to the situation at Liverpool, at least according to this source. It points out that Liverpool did win the Premier League title in Arne Slot's first season, and highlights why Liverpool fans are reportedly so keen on Wirtz. The potential for him to be a key piece in helping Liverpool retain their status as Premier League champions in the future. So it frames the move as about a winning club bringing in talent to continue winning.
That connection is definitely clear in the article. And that recent Germany versus Portugal match is then presented almost as a demonstration of why Liverpool and others are so interested in a 22-year-old.
Okay, let's turn to that match then, as the source dedicates significant space to it. The game was Germany's 2-1 loss to Portugal in the UEFA Nations League semifinal, played at the Allianz Arena.
Yes, and according to the report, Wirtz played the full 90 minutes in that pretty intense fixture. He was part of a German lineup that included players like Leroy Sané and the debutant Nick Woltmade.
Right.
And they were up against Portugal's big names, Cristiano Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, the whole lot. It was definitely a high-profile stage.
No doubt. So how did the article describe his actual performance? What kind of player did it portray him as in that specific match?
Well, the source details his role as an attacking midfielder for Germany under Julian Nagelsmann. It describes him as a real live wire, especially when Germany was on the front foot.
Okay.
It notes his commitment, saying he was committed to the cause, and highlighted his attacking intent with phrases like showing a desire to dance in and out of opposition.
Dance in and out. I like that.
Yeah. Positionally, it said he floated centrally and picked up lovely pockets of space as he aimed to create problems for Portugal's defense.
And he was the one who got Germany on the scoreboard first, wasn't he? The article describes his goal as a box crasher goal. Can you walk us through how the source depicted that moment?
Absolutely. The article explains that the goal opened the scoring for Germany. It notes the assist came from a sort of looping ball by Joshua Kimmich. What's interesting is the description of Wirtz's movement and finish. It says he wandered behind a bystanding Portugal defense to get on the end of it.
Bystanding?
And then he latched onto the ball and then diverted it past a hapless Diogo Costa. The language really emphasizes his composure in that moment, Even though he's not described as particularly tall, saying he kept it cool and collected and that it took real poise and make it look easy.
Making a difficult finish look easy, especially on that stage, yeah, that's a big sign. And the article doesn't hold back on the general praise either, using some very strong descriptors for Wirtz overall.
Oh, definitely not. It uses terms that really convey the high regard he's held in. Phrases like one of the most exciting in world football, calling him widely regarded as one of the best players in world football.
Wow.
And even using terms like genius and world class to describe him. These aren't light words. They reflect a consensus view that the source is clearly tapping into.
It sounds like the eye test, according to this source, is overwhelmingly positive. But the article also brings in the numbers, right? It gives us some specific stats from that Germany versus Portugal match, and then it does a deeper comparison.
It does. For the Portugal game, the source highlights a couple of specific metrics. He completed 3 out of 5 attempted dribbles and won 8 out of 13 ground duels. These are sort of presented as evidence of his effectiveness and willingness to engage physically.
Okay, solid numbers there. And then comes the part that really puts things into perspective within the context of the Liverpool rumors, the statistical comparison.
Right.
The article directly compares Wirtz's 2024-25 Bundesliga stats with Dominik Szoboszlai's 2024-25 Premier League stats, citing SofaScore and WhoScored data as correct on June 4th, 2025. This feels like the source is anticipating the direct competition if the move happens.
It absolutely is. It lays out a table of stats, and what immediately stands out is Wirtz's dominance across many key offensive and creative metrics in his league season compared to Szoboszlai's in the Premier League that year, according to this data anyway.
Okay, let's break that down as the source does. Where does Wirtz have the clear edge based on these numbers they provide?
Well, looking at the comparison provided, Wirtz's goal contributions are much higher, 10 goals and 12 assists, totaling 22.
22 goal involvements, yeah.
Compared to Szoboszlai's 6 goals and 6 assists, totaling 12. Wirtz also averaged more passes per game, 51.3 versus 34.5, suggesting, a greater involvement in build-up play.
Okay.
He had more shots per game, 2.5 versus 1.9, indicating a bigger direct goal threat, perhaps. His key passes per game, which measure passes leading directly to a shot, were also higher, 1.8 versus 1.6.
Close on that one, but still ahead.
Still ahead. But perhaps the most striking difference is in dribbles per game. Wirtz averaged a remarkable 2.6 compared to Szoboszlai's 0.6.
Wow. That's a massive difference.
It really is. And overall, the source's cited rating for Wirtz, 7.50, is significantly higher than Szoboszlai's 6.89.
Wow, okay. Those dribbling numbers really are quite a disparity. It reinforces that desire to dance description from the match report we talked about. Based on those stats alone, the source seems to be building a very strong case for Wirtz's attacking output and creative influence. Where does Szoboszlai fare better in this specific comparison?
According to this data, Szoboszlai played slightly more minutes in his respective league season 24-96 compared to Wirtz's 23-57. So a bit more time on the pitch.
Okay, marginal.
Yeah. And he also had a slightly higher pass success rate, 85.8% compared to Wirtz's 82.3%.
Interesting. So Szoboszlai was on the field a tiny bit more and slightly more accurate with his passing overall, but Wirtz significantly outpaced him in almost every metric related to direct goal threat, creativity, and beating players one-on-one.
That's how the data is presented, yes.
And the source doesn't shy away from connecting these stats directly to the potential implications for Liverpool's lineup, does it?
No, it's quite blunt, actually. It directly quotes the idea that Wirtz is on his way to snatch his Szoboszlai spot. It positions the transfer not just as adding depth, but potentially as a direct challenge for a starting role based on these numbers.
It also mentioned the other midfielders currently at Liverpool, doesn't it? Putting Wirtz's potential arrival into context with the existing setup.
It does. The source refers to Alexis Mac Allister and Ryan Gravenberch, described them as two of world football's best midfielders right now.
High praise for them, too?
Highlighting that they form Liverpool's current two-man pivot, or the deeper midfield pairing, behind the attacking midfield position where Wirtz is kind of expected to play.
Right.
This sets the scene for where Wirtz would likely fit in and who he'd be linking up with or potentially competing against, which looks mainly like Szoboszlai for that more advanced role, according to this.
And there's that little detail about the number 10 shirt. The source notes the rumors that Wirtz might take it, but then includes his reported dismissal of those as fake news.
Oh, I saw that.
Specifically mentioning his respect for Mac Allister, who currently wears it. That adds a nice touch of personality and maybe awareness from the player, as reported anyway.
It does. It makes him sound like a player who respects the established order and teammates, which is often seen as a positive sign, when these big transfers happen.
Definitely. So, given the intense transfer speculation, the impressive performance highlights from the source, and these really compelling stats, what does the article say about how the Liverpool fans are reacting to all this buzz?
Well, the source reports rave reviews from the Anfield faithful. It includes specific sentiments and quotes from fans painting a picture of real excitement and anticipation.
Okay, what kind of things were fans saying, according to the article? What jumped out?
Several points stood out in the fan reactions they cited. There's a lot of excitement about potential link-ups on the field. One fan quote shared is, "Mohamed Salah is going to love playing with Florian Wirtz."
Ah, okay, so they see the connection.
Yeah, it suggests fans already see a connection between Wirtz's creative style and the potential for him to supply Liverpool's key attackers.
That speaks volumes about how they perceive his playmaking ability. What about his temperament or style beyond just the raw stats?
Yes, that was another key theme the source highlighted from the fan reactions. One fan is quoted emphasizing his composure. One thing I love about Wirtz is that he plays the game at his own pace.
His own pace.
Yeah, and they added never phased, never rushed, always composed. This directly echoes the description of his calm finish against Portugal that the article mentioned earlier.
Ties it all together nicely.
Right.
And the valuation and just the overall excitement level.
Fans are clearly placing a high value on him based on his talent. One quoted post declared, "Florian Wirtz is a 100-meter player. World class."
Great. Echoing the world-class label from earlier.
Exactly. It ties into the earlier expert praise cited in the article. Another fan expressed their eagerness, saying, "Florian Wirtz is a genius. It'll be a pleasure having him in the PL if this Liverpool signing goes through." The sentiment is clearly one of wanting this move to happen and believing he has truly elite potential.
So the source gives us the strong transfer claim, backs it up with a detailed account of a standout performance against top international opposition, provides pretty compelling statistical evidence comparing him directly to a current Liverpool player, and shows that the fans are already excited and recognize his quality and potential price tag. Bringing all these pieces together from this one source, why should you, listening right now, care about this deep dive? What's the takeaway?
Well, what's fascinating here, I think, is how this article weaves a complete narrative using different types of information. It's not just a rumor report. It's a story about a top young talent where performance data, expert assessment, world-class genius, media reporting, the inevitable claim, citing sources, and public opinion, those fan reactions, all converge.
Exactly. The source uses the match performance and the stats not just as standalone facts, but as reinforcement for the transfer story and the player's high reputation. Learning about Wirtz through this lens shows you how these different elements interact in the world of elite football transfers. Whether you live and breathe soccer or you're just interested in how information is reported and perceived in these high-stakes environments, this article provides a great example. It demonstrates how the eye test, backed by the numbers, and then amplified by media claims and fan reaction, creates this enormous buzz around a player and a potential move.
Yeah.
And his composure in big moments, like scoring that goal against Portugal under pressure, as described in the source, just adds another layer to why he's apparently so highly valued.
It really is a microcosm of the modern football transfer market, all captured within the scope of this single article we looked at.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a thought to leave you with, drawn directly from something interesting in this source. The article heaps tremendous praise on Florian Wirtz, describing his individual brilliance with terms like world-class and genius, showing impressive stats from his league season and that standout goal against Portugal. However, the same source also specifically points out that his club, Bayer Leverkusen, failed to retain their status as the champions of Germany this season.
Right, that contrast is interesting.
Considering these two facts side by side, both presented in the same article, immense individual talent and praise, versus the team not quite achieving its ultimate domestic goal, what does that tell us, according to this source's framing, about the relationship between individual brilliance and team success? Or perhaps the pressure that exists even on the most talented players and top teams? It's an interesting tension the article presents for you to think about.
It certainly gives you something to ponder about the dynamics at play in elite football.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the source material surrounding Florian Wirtz. We've explored the reported transfer situation, dissected his performance against Portugal as the article describes it, looked at the stats presented, and shared the fan reactions according to this report.
Hope it gave you a good overview based on what this source was saying.
And if you have thoughts on Florian Wirtz, his performance, or this potential move based on what we've discussed from the source, we'd genuinely love to hear what you think. Share your thoughts in the comments section below. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video. It really helps us out.
Yeah, let us know your take. Thanks for tuning in.